Hi, everyone. Welcome to our next episode of First Friday Showcase. Last episode, we spoke about specific webinar events that were going on throughout last month, along with having our center director, John Stetler, just providing some insight on what we would like this podcast to be for our listeners. During this episode, we'll talk about events and webinars going on throughout this month, and we'll be featuring John Dever, who's a general business consultant with the KUSBDC, and he'll be talking about information regarding business startups. So to start off with some events that are going on throughout the month, the first one we have going on Tuesday, June 8th at 10 a.m. is tax tips for your business structure. And during this webinar, you'll essentially explore each entity types and type of business, along with their advantages and disadvantages, and the tax planning opportunities that could be available to you depending on the entity. A next event going on this month by the KUSBDC is Tuesday, June 22nd at 1 p.m., which is the first step to starting your business. And this will be co-presented by the Penn State Legal Clinic as well as the SBA. And this webinar is more of an interactive webinar, and it's designed for people who are thinking about starting a business or essentially who are in the early stages of thinking of starting a business. A third event going on this month, presented by the KUSBDC, is a Finance 101 for startups, which will be Wednesday, June 30th at 11 a.m. And this will be presented by Mark Rentschler, who's a KUSBDC finance consultant. And essentially, some of the topics that will be going on is how to prepare financial projections, along with getting ready to approach lenders if you were seeking funding, as well as types of loans you can apply for and how to put those loan proposals together. And next up is the feature of KUSBDC consultant, which is John Dever. So hi, John. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks, Matt.
Good. So we have three questions we wanted to ask you, essentially just regarding business startups. So the first one that I have is, in your experience with the counties you serve, what do you suggest startups do prior to reaching out to the SBDC for consultation or applying for consultation?
Well, okay. Well, the counties that I have responsibility for directly, although it's not just me, it's the whole center as well as the entire Commonwealth SBDC. It's Lancaster, Lebanon, and Dauphin counties. So, and to specifically answer your question, it's kind of a tough question to answer because, there isn't a one size fits all of startups. People who start businesses start at various stages of their idea or that sort of thing. But I guess, when you take a look at counsel that you can give to all, I think it's really good to have any entrepreneur, any startup to be able to really understand their idea as well as they can. And what I mean by that is anybody who comes to us as an entrepreneur and potential startup, comes across extremely inspiring to me. I mean, I think we're blessed to actually be working with entrepreneurs and startups. So I gauge where they are in their cycle of actually being an established business. And depending upon where they are, I think you want people to understand what they're getting into. So one of the things that you mentioned earlier when you were going through the webinars that we are providing with the SBDC, there were actually, the tax planning, the first steps to finance, all of those are extremely valuable to anyone, and specifically startups. So I think, one of the areas that I really recommend very strongly to any entrepreneur or any startup is to check out our events page on the Kutztown University SBDC website to take a look at these webinar offerings and take advantage of them. I mean, I think the majority of them are free. So
Right.
I typically go to recommending the webinar, and the first one and this one, there's one on June 22nd, I think you said, is the first steps in starting your business. I mean, I'll throw a sports analogy on here. So I'm dating myself here by quoting Vince Lombardi, who was the quintessential coach's coach. And he would take all of his players at the beginning of training camp, all of them, veterans, rookies, the whole thing. And he'd hold up a football in front of them and he'd go, "Gentlemen, this is a football." And then the rest would be the season. And you would do that. But
Right.
when you really go down to foundational things and fundamentals, the first steps in starting your business, I think, is a a wonderful thing to watch. And typically, you're going to have someone from the Penn State University Law Center, the Entrepreneur Assistance Clinic, be on that. And they, in and of themselves, are another great resource in being able to establish your business, file with the Commonwealth, be able to know how to go about doing that with the IRS. So you get your employer identification number, and you become a legit entity so that you can continue to go forward. So that's a long answer to an easy question, but
Right.
I'll,
Right. No, and like you mentioned, towards the end of that answer, to make sure business is filed with the Commonwealth, as well as file business with the IRS in order to get that the employee identification number. Is that correct?
yeah, the employer
Right.
identification number, or EIN.
Right. And for anyone listening who's interested or needs more assistance in filing with the Commonwealth, or working with the IRS to get that number, as I mentioned earlier, and as John mentioned throughout the question, is on Tuesday, June 22nd, from 1 p.m. There'll be that first step to starting your business, which, like I mentioned before, will be co-presented by the Penn State Legal Clinic, which is an excellent resource for anyone who needs help to file their business with the Commonwealth or to get that employee identification number with the IRS. So definitely attend that webinar if you're at those steps of your startup.
Matt, if I can just chime in there again, one of the
Sure.
things that just really going back, when someone has an idea and they're looking to start a business, which I just absolutely admire anyone who's doing that. Um, the actual ins and outs of getting up and running from an administrative perspective, like what we're talking about right now, sometimes that can be very daunting. And I think, across the board, you get someone who's excited about their idea to do something. And a lot of times, the daunting nature of starting that business to capitalize on that idea, the daunting aspect of it sometimes squashes entrepreneurs. So I think one of the things that we do, and we the SBDC has done this since its inception, is to help entrepreneurs get through all of that, so we become a little bit of a guide so that they can concentrate on their idea rather
Exactly.
than concentrate on all the administrative things, which are important. But I think that's one of the best things that we can do for an entrepreneur, is to guide them through it so that they don't have to be the experts in what do you do to capitalizing on the idea.
Right.
So if that makes sense.
Yeah,
No, it definitely does. And I appreciate the answer on that. So
if I
now
could
the
just
next,
if I could just butt
go
in
ahead, Zach.
here,
Sorry.
I wanted
Yeah.
to go back to something John said about how people looking to start their own business, they're often inspired and they come to you with an idea. How do you kind of turn that idea into a plan and like a strategy to get the business up and running?
Well, that's okay. So now we're going into the continuum of how you walk someone through this. So, and again, it's not a one size fits all for anyone, but I really like the idea of being able to do the webinar first, hit the Penn State Law Center so they become legit.
Hmm.
There's something to actually filing for whatever your structure is, whether it's an LLC or sole proprietorship or whatever. And yeah, I think the going rate right now is $120 for a filing fee. But once you get that, and then you also file with the IRS and you get your EIN, there's a legitimacy to this and going forward with this.
So there is
Being a,
sort of a step-by-step process almost.
and again, it's not a one size fits all. Some
Hmm.
people come to us and they've already done the LLC or whatever filing they've done. But to Zach, specifically to your question, I think every entrepreneur, every startup needs a business plan. And with that
Hmm.
business plan, they need to have a set of financial projections to it. And the two
Hmm.
of them work hand in hand. And I think if I were to take a look and say, okay, well, what are one of the biggest challenges for an entrepreneur? It's the business plan and the financial projections, because they have ideas, but not all of them are really well versed in the financials, the accounting, the actual planning aspect of it. And again, we are guides to help entrepreneurs and startups do that.
Right.
And the SBDC provides entrepreneurs and startups with a couple of great tools for business planning.
Hmm.
There's either the business model canvas or there's the pitch then plan methodology. For the financials, we have a wonderful worksheet that really requires the entrepreneur to plug in numbers, and then it extrapolates all those numbers into a 20-tab integrated spreadsheet that gives you 3 years of income statements, cash flow, balance sheet, and it really prepares the entrepreneur to be able to talk to stakeholders, some of whom may very well be potential lenders, in a manner that is very clear, it's very concise. And I can't tell you how many times, lenders will come back to us and say, thank you so much for working with my client, because they typically would refer them to us saying, I need a loan. But after they come to us and after they work with us, they're able to have their idea and a business plan, financial projections that are all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And it's really very empowering to the entrepreneur, and it's very, very helpful to the potential lender.
Right. And just to follow up on that, John, I know you mentioned, especially with startups looking for funding, the financial projections is huge, because that's something, lenders really need to look at before giving them a loan. And just to retract to what I said before throughout the events, there is an event going on June 30th, Wednesday from 11 a.m. till noon, which is Finance 101 for startups. So, if any of the listeners on here is a startup business that actually is in the step or potentially will soon be in those steps to seek some type of funding or loan, definitely attend that webinar, because it'll show you how to prepare financial projections, and it'll get you ready to approach lenders for financing. So that's Wednesday, June 30th.
Yeah, and Matt, if I could also kind of put my
Sure.
my vote in on that one. First, the person who's doing that is Mark Rentschler. Mark's a wonderful guy, extremely experienced when it comes to this. Mark is, I don't know if you ever become an ex-loan officer, but Mark spent a lot of time as a loan officer, and he can make it very, very simple to you, and he comes from a school of thought that really is very, he's a great assistant in terms of being able to have people who are trying to fill that out, do it and do it well.
Right.
I'll be attending that because you never stop learning. And boy, Mark he's forgotten more than I think a lot of people will ever know.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but great things about Mark Renshaw. I've never worked with him personally, but
great guy. He's
yeah.
also a very strong Phillies fan, Matt, so you might learn some things from him.
Right. And the fact that this is June 30th and the first step to starting your business is June 22nd. Again, any listeners that might be a potential startup or, just has a type of business idea and definitely wants to deep dive into it, I definitely suggest going to that first step to starting your business meeting on June 22nd, because there I'll talk about the legality and the different entities you can do. And then a week later, June 30th, there's the finance side of it for startups. So definitely attend both of those webinars if you're not at those steps yet.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the process that we go through as the consultants go through is the, how to start your business up, and then it's the financials next, and it's kind of like a mock run if you're not already in the process. So
yeah, I agree, Zach. I think, and Matt, I think bringing those back up again, I think they're extremely helpful, and I think they're very concise. I'll call it empirical. They're to the point, and
Right.
I think they're well delivered. So good.
Yeah. So I think that'll probably do it for our discussion with John here. Next
well, listen, thank you guys for having me. And, I would encourage anyone who's watching this, who is thinking about starting a business, please, reach out to us at the Kutztown University SBDC, because it's what we're here for. And dare I say, we can make it a pleasant journey for you.
All right. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate it. So next up, on this episode of First Friday Showcase, we'll be talking about the consulting corner of the month. So during this month, the consulting corner that was chosen was Donald Lodge, which he's a general business consultant at Duquesne University and actually has been with the SBDC for over 2 years. So, congratulations, Donald, for, being the consulting corner this past month. And also, I appreciate your time with SBDC for more than 2 years, providing small businesses around the area with lots of assistance. So, highly appreciate that. And congratulations again.
And the consultant corner can be found in the Kutztown newsletter and In the
Yes.
Know, if anyone gets those.
Yes.
So be sure to
And
sign
just
up.
yeah, definitely sign up for that because the consulting corners go out via email whenever those articles are released. So definitely sign up for that. And just to recap, our second episode of First Friday Showcase, I just wanted to thank all of our listeners and viewers, for tuning in. The next episode will be July 2nd, which is the first Friday of July. And again, that episode would include resources, webinars, and news going on throughout that month. And it will have another KUSBDC consultant featured on the episode as well. And as mentioned before, with all of our training events, if you'd like to sign up for any of those, definitely visit our website at pasbdc.ecenterdirect.com. And again, that is pasbdc.ecenterdirect.com. And on there, you can register. Again, most of our training events, if not like 99% of them, are free to attend, and the registration deadlines are usually like the day before the actual event is taking place. So you have time to register. And again, if you're a startup business that has an idea and is looking to learn more about the legality side of things or the financial side of things, definitely register for those two events because those are great resources. And other than that, that is a wrap. So till next time, everyone, and thank you for tuning in.